Okay, welcome to vlog 27. Oh no. Okay, so we're doing a slightly different format for this one. Partially because I have a specific, wow, shaking my desk. Partially because I have a super specific topic that I want to talk about, and partially because I don't have much footage from the week. And that's what kind of inspired me to make a video talking about a day job, side gig balance. You know, they talk about work-life balance, and this video is more like work-work balance. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make this video because I have learned a lot, and I just want to share kind of what seems to have worked for me, so that maybe if you're looking for some, tips or tricks to managing your day job and your side gig, or maybe you go to school full time, maybe you're a parent, whatever it is, maybe art only gets a little bit of time in your life. Yeah, this is going to be pretty laid back. Again, it's just kind of my thoughts and my experience with this, balancing day job, side gig. So I don't think I've found the one right way to do it by any means, but when it comes to something like art and stuff, the more opinions that you kind of can take in and then meld into something that's your own approach, that's the best way to do it is. So I'm going to share my opinion to just add to your tool collection of things you might possibly do. Okay, let's get into the voiceover part of it. Take a sip of coffee, y'all. Here we go. So, my thoughts on working a day job while also doing art as your side gig. First and foremost, if you are struggling to balance your day job and your side gig, if you have never done it, do a time inventory. There's a few self-help folks who recommend doing this, and it's essentially make a catalog, take inventory of how you spend your days. So how much time is spent at work, how much time is spent at school or on school work, how much time is spent watching TV or watching YouTube, watching TikToks, how much time do you spend eating? Really catalog your day. And the purpose of this is so you can first and foremost see where is your free time even? What is some stuff that can be cut out? Get a clear picture of how much time you have. If you've never done that, do it. The next two things are not, they're things that I always do. So I do time inventories once in a while, how am I spending my time? But the next two things are things that I do all the time. And one is create a plan. I always try to have a plan. And two is accept when you fall short. Those are the two things. If you want to balance a full-time job and a side gig, you got to have a clear plan, and you got to know you're going to fail. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about having a plan. This is why I think it's the most important. If you have a plan, you do know when you're falling short, but you know ultimately where you're supposed to go. If you don't have a plan and you have super limited time to work on your art, what's going to happen is you won't know progress when it happens because you don't know where you're going. It's kind of like if you can imagine being on a path, on a road, on a street, and you get lost. You don't know where you are. But also, you're just going for a walk, so you don't know where you're supposed to be going. So now you have no idea where you are, and even if you arrived, you wouldn't know because you didn't pick out a destination. You picture that feeling. That's terrifying, frankly. But then compare that to the feeling of, well, I know where I was going. I know that the store or whatever was to the west, and I'm still going west. So surely I have to find it sometime. That's a very different feeling. Now, here's the other thing about having a plan. I think it's easier to forgive yourself when you fall short if you know what you're ultimately trying to do. If I sit down and I draw a comic panel, That's not much drawing, but I do know how a comic panel fits into my plan. I hope that makes sense. Having a plan means you can appreciate a little bit of progress, even if it's so tiny. You can appreciate it because you do know it's progress, because you do know what goal you're going towards. Yeah, before I get to the questions, I just wanted to say, like, one, take a time inventory and find out how much time you actually have. And then after you do that, create a goal and accept that sometimes you'll fall short of that goal, but you're still moving towards it. So I guess I'm starting with like the point of the video first. You guys can all stop watching now. Okay, but don't stop watching. First question was, where do you find energy to create so much despite working a day job? I think I'm going to answer with some of the usuals, the things that you hear everybody advise, which I think it's good advice. It's good advice. One is like, in general, living a healthier lifestyle, things like getting good sleep. That's huge. Exercise, eating well, all that kind of stuff. Those all, like, they really do help you draw better because you have more energy. That being said, something that I've noticed is that helps is being on social media less. Social media, if you're on it for like a long period of time, for me it only takes like 15-20 minutes. If I'm browsing for 15 or 20 minutes, creatively, it's like when your leg falls asleep and you try to stand up and you're like, you can't walk for a minute or 2 or 5. Social media tends to do that to my brain. It's like it's numb. And I mean, if we're honest, that's why we're on social media a lot of times. That's why you're scrolling. It's just to sort of like numb feelings of anxiety or feelings of like, I should be doing things. That's why we go to social media a lot, which, maybe has its time and place. But if you know you're going to need to be creative, scrolling through social media for me is such a handicap. It just turns my brain into sludge, and it's so hard to get going after being on social media for a while. But yeah, spending less time on social media it helps my energy stay in working order. It helps my energy stay fighting fit. And then the other thing, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about having a plan. If I know ahead of time what I need to work on, I don't have decision fatigue. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's like where you literally made so many decisions you can't make anymore. It's called decision fatigue. It's a thing. If I have made a lot of decisions ahead of time, like what needs to be drawn, when it needs to be drawn by, what's the most important part of this drawing project, if I've already made those decisions when I made my plan, sitting down to draw feels like obvious. Like, of course, this is what I'm going to draw. The next question is, how do you get used to doing digital art? This doesn't necessarily tie into working full-time and bouncing your side gig for some people, but for me it actually is important because going digital and getting an iPad has been one of the key factors in how fast I can produce an episode. So in order to get good at digital, or at least catch my digital art up to where my traditional art was, at the time was just inking, essentially I went back to the basics. I mean, the obvious answer is practice, just practice. But in concrete terms, I truly went back to the basics with my iPad. I practiced drawing lines, straight lines, just straight lines. And I practiced shapes, literally just drawing circles and spheres and cubes and rectangles and cones and geometric shapes. And I just did it. Like, that was my warm-up, was I would just sit and draw squares and circles and practice my lines, just straight lines. And the reason for this is, the Apple Pencil or stylus is very similar to a pen or pencil in many ways. In many ways, it is completely different, and you're not just dealing with a pen, you're dealing with a screen that reacts differently than paper does. So what I was doing was, like, I know how to draw, but what I was doing was fine-tuning my muscle memory and just like remember muscles. This is how a stylus works. This is how a stylus works. And the point of those drawing exercises was purely to get my muscles used to it. And again, the reason this ties in is because I was able to do that and go through that practice of just scribbling on the screen until it felt natural. My digital work has really enabled me to draw my comic a lot faster, so it's worth doing. The next question: how do you make yourself draw when you don't feel like drawing after work? You're too tired or uninspired? All right, I'm gonna divide these because uninspired and too tired are way different things for me. The way I've observed them in my life, they are very different, and I used to lump them together, but they're not the same thing. Okay, so uninspired. This is where a plan comes in handy. I don't actually allow the lack of inspiration to be a road bump well, it's a road bump. It's not fun. But I don't allow inspiration to ever be the driver on the trip. Like, I can't move unless inspiration is behind the wheel. I try so hard not to function that way. Think of it like caffeine. I love my coffee, but think of inspiration like caffeine. Yes, it'll get you going. And yes, it gives you like this energized feeling. But in reality, it's actually better to get a good night's sleep, you know? So it's great to run when inspiration, to like draw when inspiration hits. However, in the long run, you will work more prolifically if you learn how to wean yourself off of your addiction to inspiration and learn to work because you need to work, not because you're inspired, but because it needs to happen. This sounds harsh because everyone likes to think of art as like this, you only do it when you're happy thing. And for a lot of people, that's true. But if you are balancing this as a side gig alongside your day job, like you want your art to accomplish a specific goal, like a comic book, like a graphic novel, like a gallery show, whatever, you don't have, I was going to call it a luxury. I'm trying not to be mean. I don't want it to come across as negative. But essentially, if you want to get something done, you cannot wait for some mysterious thing called inspiration to come along and kick you in the pants. That's the long and short of it. If you want to move no matter what, then you got to move no matter what. You cannot wait for inspiration to come and like sprinkle fairy dust on you. That felt really harsh, but it also felt kind of therapeutic to say that out loud. If for you, art is something that you do purely just because it's fun and you don't really have a goal. If art is something that you do to relieve stress and just feeling the pencil on paper feels nice, this isn't necessarily the video for you. So that's why I'm being a little bit harsh. If you're someone who's like, I want to make a comic book and I want to release regular episodes and I want to have a readership, you don't get to wait for inspiration. I'm sorry. That's not a privilege that you have. Even more so if you have a day job, inspiration might hit you while you're clocking in. You might have inspiration all day and then it's gone in the evening, and are you gonna just be like, well, inspiration's gone, I guess today's a zero-sum day? What? Yeah, so if you might just not have the luxury of waiting for inspiration, so that's too dang bad. Yeah, so for me, it's not sustainable or reliable or predictable to wait for inspiration. I draw no matter what. Now, the next part of that question was if you're too tired. Being physically exhausted is different. I don't draw if I know I have had a physically or mentally draining day. If I come home and the thought of drawing is like, I just can't, then I don't. I will work if I have the energy to do it, even if I'm not inspired. I will not work, even if I'm inspired. I will not work if my brain or my body needs to rest. The reason for this is pretty simple. If you work like that, if you know you don't have the stamina to work and you work anyway, your work is going to get worse and worse because you're not allowing yourself to like refill energy or rest or recover. This goes for everything in life, not just art. So, my art time that I have when I'm not working is precious time. But part of treating it as precious is not just depleting that time mindlessly. It's paying attention to, am I ready to show up and do stuff? And after some work days, the answer is no, I'm not. I'm tired. And if that's the case, I don't work. This is it. Also, just a note, you can build stamina. So if you feel like you're always too tired to draw, you might be too tired to draw. But the other thing might be you're just not used to showing up daily and drawing. That's a thought. You should try doing better. Actually going through these steps and showing up daily and drawing for a little bit can actually sort of build stamina and build endurance. So you might just always be tired because you're not used to showing up for yourself, for your art like this. So do your art a favor and show up. Anyway, yeah, it's just possible to build up your focus and endurance for that. The next question is, do you ever have the problem of wanting to do your side gig during your day job? How do you manage that? I have two very different answers for this. Full disclosure, my day job now as a nanny, I 100% do my side gig while I'm at my day job. However, in the past, I have had day jobs where I could do that, could not draw or do my side gig while I was at work. And I'm going to talk about those first, and then I'll talk about my nannying job, because I feel like my nannying job is atypical. It's an unusual situation. So, okay. So in the past, before I was a full-time nanny, my day job was, in a bookstore. And to set the context, set the scene for you, if you will. It was a very little bookstore that was kind of going under. So it already had a bit of a vibe. And I was in the situation that I think a lot of people have been in with their jobs, where you have a business that there's no way for you to like get out your drawing stuff, but also you're not really doing that much. It's things like dusting the shelves, occasionally waiting on a customer, vacuuming, wait on a customer, straighten the books, wait on a customer. It was very mundane, very dull, and not really cheerful. And I did have a boss that like definitely would frown on me having a sketchbook out on the counter. And I kind of get that. It doesn't look professional for a customer to walk in and I'm sitting there doodling Dazer. So what I did was I prioritized what free time I did have. So at the time, for a chunk of that, I did not have a car. I rode the bus to work, and I would pack up my drawing supplies in the morning, catch the bus. As soon as I was on the bus, I was drawing. And I drew the whole bus route. So I probably got in, counting like the bus switching and stuff, probably like 45 minutes of drawing, really focused drawing every morning. Then I went to work. I had a half-hour lunch break. I had a half-hour lunch break back in the like storage room. So depressing. Anyway, and I would draw and like scarf down my lunch as fast as possible and then draw. And then I would work the rest of my day, get on the bus, draw on the way home. By the time I got home, I probably got in 2 to 3 hours of drawing, like focused drawing. And that's actually pretty good for a work day. But what I was doing was prioritizing my free time and making it focused. So what I discovered is once I was into that routine, my day job didn't bother me as much. Or I should say, the fact that I couldn't draw during my day job didn't bother me as much because I knew I was getting such high quality drawing time outside of the day job. To compare it, if there's a day where you work your 7 to 8 hour day job, and then you come home, say you've got like an hour of time between like dinner and household things or children things, whatever, and and you spend that hour on like TikTok or YouTube, the next day when you go to work, you're going to feel so disappointed in yourself. You're going to spend your entire workday wanting to make up for that poor choice of how you spent your time, and you're going to be mad at your day job. You're going to be mad at yourself, and you're not going to feel motivated at the end of the day. So the way I managed it, wanting to draw at my day job, was having as high quality possible drawing time as I could outside of the day job. Now, it's not like I happily went skipping into my dull, dreary bookstore job. I still didn't like it. And I still quit. But that is something that I noticed, as if my outside of work time was super structured and prioritized and well spent, I just felt better at my day job. So that was then. About 5 years ago, I think, I quit that job without any plans of a future job. I just knew I couldn't take it anymore. Like, I just couldn't bear going to work anymore at that job. So I quit, and I took a bit of time off. That was pretty amazing. And I sort of by fluke fell into full-time nannying. Slowly built up to full-time. It was kind of part-time, and now I'm pretty much full-time. So that's my current job. How do I manage wanting to do my side gig? I do my side gig at my day job. Let me explain. Before I get fired, let me explain. As a full-time nanny, I work currently about 4 days a week. No, technically 5. 4 full days a week, and then 1 day a week it's just an evening while the parents go out. Those 4 days where I'm working full-time, it's usually a 10-hour day, sometimes 11 or 12. That's not uncommon for me. So I'm still getting in my full 40 hours a week in 4 days. When you are nannying at that level, like I'm not just hanging out with the kids while the parents, go to the store or go out for coffee. When you nanny at that degree, your day, this is pretty amazing. You should all be nannies. You get to structure your day. I mean, it's structured around kids, and there's a lot of constrictions with that. But you get to structure your day very differently than if you are in a bookstore with a manager hovering over you. So, for example, I don't have to look busy at my current day job. If a child that I'm in charge of is playing happily on their own, I don't have to play with them. That would be weird. Most child care specialists would be like, don't force yourself onto the child's play. Like, don't make yourself the center of attention. If they're happy on their own, let them be happy on their own. So I always bring my drawing stuff with me because every once in a while, the child, whoever I'm with, they just go play. And I will get out my sketchbook. Most of the houses where I go, there's nap time. I will get out my stuff and draw during nap time. So, and I also talk to the kids about it. Like, all the kids that I babysit know that I'm a comic artist. So, they'll watch me draw sometimes. I try to limit how much watching they get to do when I'm like on my iPad. I don't want them to have like tons of screen time. I am very lucky to have a job where I can bring my stuff with me, and I do usually get quite a bit of time. Not a lot, I guess, but I usually have some time during the day. And then, like I said, it's generally just the long days are 4 days a week, and then Thursdays I only work in the evenings, so Thursdays are my studio days. And then I take weekends off, mostly. That's not true. I do not take weekends off. I take Sundays off. So, that's not something that everyone can do at their day job. I totally realize that. Like, I've had the day jobs in the past where I don't get to just sit and draw during nap time. But I have that job now, and I love it. If you have a clear plan and you know where you're going, 10 minutes a day of focused, quality drawing time really adds up. As opposed to, like, if you have lots of time, 3 hours a day to draw, but you don't have a plan, and you just kind of meander through it, and you don't know what you're expecting from yourself, those 3 hours a day are wasted. Like, it would be better to spend 10 minutes of focused time than 3 hours of unfocused, meandering time. If you're pursuing a specific project. I don't want anyone to feel like art shouldn't be fun or art should be like a job. unless you want it to be a job, in which case this is how you do it. Yeah, okay, that felt really rambly, and I feel like, and yet there's still so much more I could cover, tragically. I'm gonna try and edit this down to something tolerable, but I hoped it helped. I hoped you guys got something from it, and if there's anything you want me to cover in more depth or a different topic you're interested in me talking about, let me know. I might talk about it, I don't know. All right, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, hope it helped, and hope you have a good day. Bye.